science fiction. We make no guarantees, however, how long it will remain fiction. Fiction. Fiction.
Hemisync salutations to all you cognonauts out there, and welcome to this episode of Exofathom, the show that dares to explore the outside reaches of understanding. I am Nick, and I am joined, as always, by my lovely co-hosts. Ayla, how's it going?
I'm doing good. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you as well. Thank you so much. And I think we got Mike here, but he might be stepped out. Oh, he's here. All right. How you doing?
Here.
I'm doing well. Hanging in there, that's for sure.
Very
Happy
good.
Friday. I dashed to grab a couple beers, and I was
Sounds good.
Just in time.
Right. Very appropriate. It is Friday. We're going to be loose with it. We're going to be wild with it. And
I'm one glass of wine in, so I'm real mellow.
So I have to catch up. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, apparently.
Exactly. You have all of paragraph 28 to catch up. So.
How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing all right, guys. Everything is all good. It's Friday, and I want to say happy 1 year anniversary to the Exofathom podcast. This is our 1 year. I've been doing this podcast. We started it during the COVID times, and we're really excited to continue this and see where it leads us. The COVID times.
What's that?
Oh.
Sorry, I just had to. Could you imagine running into someone like, what?
I don't know what is this COVID that you speak of.
Right. Well, it'll be like that within 30 years. So.
Did that guy spell coffee again and accidentally put COVID?
We're going to be weird old people. That's all I'm going to say. We're going to be like the weirdest. Like millennial old people are going to be the worst. So prepare yourselves.
So all the younger generations. It's always been the plan. Always been the plan.
All right. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for listening. We very much appreciate you taking the time out this Friday or whenever you're listening to this. We very much appreciate all of you. We wanted to, for our 1 year anniversary, get back to the thing that started it all, the concept and topic that launched over 75 podcasts now. And that is the Gateway Experience and the CIA Declassified report on the Gateway Experience. Now, we did 6 episodes on the Gateway Experience before, and we said that we were going to finish it, but we decided that we did not want to do anymore. And it took us a year to kind of really get back into the swing of it and desire to finish this off, because we're actually really close. We only have about 4 or 5 pages left of the document. So we thought that what better way to round out this first year of the podcast than to finish it within the next couple episodes. Hopefully by Monday we'll have it finished. Yes.
I believe they call this circling back.
Circling back, yes. We finally got back to the CIA. So.
Don't expose my professional catchphrase.
Right.
I saw one TikTok video, and it was this lady, and she's like talking about every email for the day because she just was done. And she's just like, we're going to circle back to that. And it popped up. So it's like when your client asks about that thing you forgot to do, and she's like, we're just going to circle back to that. I'll circle back to that with you next week, you know? And I just loved it because I was like, yeah, that's a really like guilt-free get out of jail phrase, you know?
This is really just the theme of 2020. I'll get back to you.
I'll circle back to you. Yeah.
There's too much going on right now.
Right. Auto reply. That's what you just set that up for.
That's right.
They're like, Ayla, I hope you had a great day today. I'll circle back to you. Oh dear. No, but it's good though, because I think, like, at least for me, I don't know about you all out there, but if it's like if you shine a light on me, I can't think. I'm like, you can't put me on the spot. So the circle back phrase has been very, very empowering.
Yeah.
So that's why you became a podcaster. Just to avoid that light.
We're not on the actual video. Now I'm looking at my little speaker light. Thanks, Mike. Put a little post-it on that.
All right,
Well,
let's jump into these.
Let's get into the recap here. So for those of you who don't want to slog through the 6 hours that we've already done on this concept and just kind of want to jump into it, now that we're a little bit more refined, I don't blame you. So I will give a brief rundown about what this document is and what the themes are inside this document, and then we'll just jump right into it. So this document was released, I believe, in 2003. And September 10th to be exact. And it's a CIA report. It's actually an Army intelligence report, but the CIA was the one that classified it and declassified it. And it's concerning the concept of the Gateway Experience. Now, the Gateway Experience is this Transcendental Meditation program that claims to give the practicer the ability to interact with the universe in ways that we can only really call science fiction or fantasy at this point. It follows the sort of model of the universe of an Itzhak Bentov and his conception of this, what we might call holographic universe, and how using this meditation technique, especially with the coupling of binaural frequencies, help bring the brain into a state of clicking out, which allows the user to enter an astral plane. Really, if we've drilled this in enough, we've definitely had many conversations about the fifth dimension. And if you want to check those out, you're definitely welcome to. But this method of meditation claims to be able to allow the user to click into the fifth dimension, in which they can extract information, gain higher wisdoms about the universe, even certain things like healing yourself and precognition and astral projection. And so the Army took a very keen interest in this back in, it started back in the 50s and it went all the way into the 80s and 90s. But they took a keen interest in this sort of method, and they decided to send one of their one of their people to investigate this program. And this report is the subsequent results of that individual's investigation into the Gateway Experience. Ayla, do you think I missed anything out in that you want to bring up?
Oh, no. It just to remind everyone, a really good movie that kind of touches on this very circuitously. It's called The Arrival, and I was watching that the other day, and it just talks a lot about the nature of time and reality, how our minds can kind of like tap into these I don't know, like potentialities that are hard to explain with the science we have that's based on third dimensions, I guess. So yeah, very esoteric. But I do think that over the last year, having done so many podcasts on so many different topics, I'm really excited to get into this, especially after we watched the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind documentary, because again, they're talking about meditation as a means to, I think they are like initiating contact that way. But as a premise, I do think that meditation, if you take like a zoom out lens and you think about like what the Buddhists were saying, about like enlightenment and what that is, and you think about throughout the history of humanity, and you think about the presence of how we don't really know what consciousness is, but we know that meditation does something, and there's been some loose studies around that. All this to say that this is going to be kind of an out there episode, but that's what we do here. And I'm excited to pick this up again with fresh eyes a year later.
I think definitely the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats is a direct reference to this program. Exactly. I believe that this program was one of the things that inspired the Coen brothers to do the Men Who Stare at Goats movie, which is basically the same sort of concept of these this branch of the military, specifically the Army, who trained psychic soldiers in order to fight in the war effort against the Soviets during the Cold War. And yeah, it's super interesting kind of stuff. And I think we can probably just jump right into it, where we left off on page 19. And I believe the last paragraph we read was the gateway method, which is paragraph 28. But Ayla, do you want to reread that one, or do you want to just move on to the next one? I have the window here that I'll be showing.
Let's move on to the next one. Let's go to 29. And
Sure.
if you want to watch, if you want more on 28 and before, you can watch the 6 hours before. Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to go and re-listen to those. I mean, we did our best, guys. we
definitely had audio issues, but yes, we did do our best.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, so Nick's gonna pull that up again. This is paragraph 29, page 19. This section is called Hemi-Sync Introduced. And I remember leaving off on this. We were like, ooh, we're getting to the juicy bits. And
Finally,
then we just didn't get into it. I don't know. Yeah, I guess we had to like mentally prepare. So this should be, huh?
It's a real cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Year-long cliffhanger there.
Year-long cliffhanger, yeah.
But you know what? We did make it to 20 subscribers as of this week. So Thank you to person 20. We really appreciate you. And here we go. So Hemi-Sync Introduced. After that, I'm guessing that's referring to the previous paragraph. So let's see. So what's the antecedent here? Okay, so that's the gateway method. So, after you go through the process of visualization and energy conversion, one is exposed for the first time to the hemi-sync sound frequencies and is encouraged to focus on and develop a perception of and appreciation for those feelings which accompany the synchronization of brain waves that results. Next comes the technique of progressive and systematic physical relaxation, while the hemi-sync frequencies are expanded to include additional forms of pink and white noise designed to bring the physical body at the virtual threshold of sleep, as well as to calm the left hemisphere of the mind, while raising the right hemisphere to a state of heightened attentiveness. Once all of this is achieved, the participant is invited to envisage creation of an energy balloon comprised of an energy flow beginning at the center of the top of the head and extending down in all directions to the feet. The energy involved in this flow then proceeds up through the body and back out into the balloon pattern again. The energy balloon, which was in quotes, which sets up a pattern very reminiscent of the cosmic egg discussed earlier, not only enhances bodily energy flow and encourages early achievement of a suitable resonant state, but it is also designed to provide protection against conscious entities possessing lower energy levels, which the participant might encounter in the event that he achieves an out-of-body state. It serves a precautionary purpose in the unlikely event that the participant's first out-of-body experience involves direct projection outside the terrestrial sphere. That's a hard word. Terrestrial sphere. So that's that paragraph. And again, just crazy that this is a CIA report talking about entities and out-of-body experience stuff. Like, whew.
Oh, yeah. Well, a couple things I got from this paragraph. One, it's interesting to me that what seems to be the most effective is this state of mind at the precipice of sleep. And we've had conversations about dreams before. We've done a whole series on dreams. And it seems interesting to me that there's this sort of mythology about dreams as well, how entities visit us in dreams quite often. And it seems all very convenient and true sometimes. The stuff that you read in this, it's like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. Oh yeah, this reminds me of that. And it's just like it's a good marriage of a whole bunch of different sort of and not conspiracies, but speculations and mythologies and I really kind of new agey books and stuff like that. But I do think that this is the first time that this report mentions lower vibrational entities. And I think that that's a really important thing to take out of this particular paragraph is because up until now they were not talking about entities.
True.
Like demons.
Maybe demons. Yeah. I mean,
No,
who
no,
knows?
Demons.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. Jinx.
You meet Jason Bourne? Is that what you're talking
Yes. Yeah.
about? I kind of like that you have to, like, the hypnagogic state, the state like right before you fall asleep, is sort of the way you access all of these things. Because I think that's also a thing for like remote viewing in a sense. Right? Like
Yeah.
You do have to reach that point where both sides are synced and walk that line between falling asleep completely or being too alert to where your brain tries to make sense of too many things and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like active lucid dreaming almost. Which I think is interesting because, you know, as I said, we've had discussions about dreams and lucid dreaming and stuff like that. And so it would make me think that perhaps the dream world is some sort of parallel dimension that we're experiencing. And if that's the case, then what are the implications of that?
Yeah, definitely some sort of either like parallel or like abstracted, you know, like that fifth dimension space, right? Where you meet with all your other collective selves. Or maybe you get like dropped into other universes where you see yourself in another timeline. I guess that's the same thing as parallel universes.
Yeah, I mean, it could be just the parallel universes, or it could be this like nexus ground, like this realm of like the astral realm, right? The realm of basically the limitless potential, kind of like the white room in the Matrix, right? Where Morpheus and Neo are standing in that white room, and Morpheus can summon anything that he wants. That's kind of the way I see it.
A good old void of worlds.
Yes,
Right,
yeah.
right.
The in-between worlds.
The in-between. Well, I think it's interesting though, because I know, Nick, you've often been able to recall the moment before you fall asleep. I don't. I mean, like, I've actually tried to be like, okay, I'm falling asleep now. I'm going to get really calm. I'm going to try to notice the moment before. I
That's not
don't
necessarily a
ever
bad
have-
thing.
I mean, I guess, but it would be cool to have like a personal experience with what it would be like to kind of note that
It's easy.
hypnagogic state.
Yeah, focus on the back of your eyelids,
Oh,
and
okay.
you'll start to create visions.
But I mean, I do that. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, you close your eyes. Your eyes
Yes.
have to stare at the back of your eyelids. So
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I'm doing it now.
Well, your
I
eyes
just
roll back
see-
in your head. Your eyes roll back in your
What?
head when you're asleep. Yeah.
You look at your brain pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much, which is kind of
Wait,
an
really?
interesting
Or your
concept too.
skull, whatever, you know, your eye socket thing.
Okay, we're doing an exo bit on that. That is weird. Why do we do that? That makes me feel weird. But
All animals roll their eyes back when they're asleep.
But okay, well, because I'm just kind of like, there's certain meditations where they're like, look up, you know, and I'm like, but you can't. But apparently we do every night, which is freaking me out. The other thing that I thought was interesting in this paragraph, just to bring it back, because I could definitely derail a convo, was the idea that they're reminding us that this whole process requires a syncing of the two hemispheres of the brain. And something that Mike had said about kind of getting to this, like, I don't know, synced up point, this 0 point. We know that like we have hemispheres that are dominant. We know that like our neural pathways, they kind of are influenced by different things. And it's just interesting to me because the more you do this, I'm just thinking, like, if I were to keep up and start meditating and trying to do this process, what would that feel like to even be like, okay, my like hemispheres are sinking?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that might be no mind, to be
And-
honest.
Yeah, and perhaps, and I wonder too if there's perhaps something like, you know, if you have a larger corpus callosum, are you more easily able to access this realm? You know, the corpus callosum,
Like
the
there's more
membrane that
space in
connects,
there.
that connects the hemispheres together. Like maybe if you
Yeah.
have more of that matter, then you have the ability to sync the hemispheres easier.
Mhm. And if you have seizures and they cut the corpus callosum, are you never able to do this? Because
That's a
right,
good
like
question.
because I mean, also too, a lot of this stuff is so intangible. It's still kind of for me a hard sell to be like the physical things in your brain are syncing so that you can have this non-brain experience.
Well, I think they specifically talk about syncing in the relation to the binaural beats.
Ah,
Yeah.
It might become a lot just more difficult, right? Like if I can get a bit reductionist, like maybe the corpus callosum would be something like having a Blu-ray drive on your computer, right? Where you play movies and stuff like that, and get visions from other universes to get all woo about it. But if you remove that Blu-ray drive, you can't really watch Blu-rays, right?
Yeah.
But you can always have some external factor, some external Blu-ray drive to plug
Right.
into your computer to play it.
Right.
So maybe there might be a way to sync it up just through, matching the
Neuralink?
wavelengths.
Yeah, like a
Maybe a
boot
Neuralink.
bootstrapper.
Yeah, something like that. But it becomes far more difficult to do naturally if that piece of hardware is missing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, now I just have this like super cosmic cowboy screenplay in my head, like kind of like, a little part Guardians of the Galaxy, part Neuralink, part Terminator. Just like, like, oh, do you want an access pass to your hemisync? Step right up, like
Multi-path, something in Fifth Element.
yeah.
Or like you would have to like you would need some sort of virtual Blu-ray drive, I guess, from a metaphor to that thing to make sense. Like something to on the software side of your brain to fake that hardware, which seems pretty difficult to do. As like I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Maybe just a resonant chip, like within the structure of the Neuralink, maybe there would be some sort of frequency generator that could massage your hemispheres into that vibrational sync.
That'd be cool, unless it messes up, then all
unless it short circuits.
Yeah, then you got to deal with Jason Bourne at the lower
right.
lower
Oh, man,
level,
right? Could you imagine like if it sends you down instead of up? Oh my god, that would be terrifying. Well,
and
that
entities come into play, and you're like,
Yeah.
no, stop massaging my hemisphere.
well, that
We're
kind
all
of
mad at you.
that kind of makes me
What are you
think.
doing here?
Yeah, that kind of makes me think about this concept of like the concepts of heaven and hell, or sort of like the higher vibration versus lower vibration, and this pairing with dreams versus nightmares. I mean, maybe it is possible that when you're having a nightmare, you've just for some reason been sort of influenced by that lower vibrational energy, and maybe that's just where it sends your brain.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, we don't really know where nightmares and dreams come from, apart from like, PTSD dreams and I don't
Experiential dreams, yeah.
experiential dreams.
That experience too might set you up for like a higher proclivity to have nightmares, right? Like just like your cells start to create more receptors for the things that are natural, or for the things that you introduce into your body. Right?
Yeah.
So you start to build tolerances towards stuff. Yeah, I can see that.
Well, do you guys want to get into the advanced techniques section?
Oh yeah.
I do find, sorry to cut you off, but
No,
there's
it's fine.
like this energy balloon that's reminiscent of like the cosmic egg.
Yes.
That's like an as below so above sort of thing.
Very much so. Yeah. And I think that it's interesting that this energy balloon acts as sort of like a force field to protect you from demons. It's like, good Lord, really?
But that pattern is reminiscent of that cosmic egg. So maybe it's just like once you link up to that, where you go, I mean, no one knows.
Well, and the ovoid is sort of, translatable into like the torus, like toroidal spheres, black holes, this sort of like recycling of energies, starting at the top and then falling downward and then bringing back up through the piece and then to go out through the top again, like a fountain.
Or
Well,
like
yeah.
an energy balloon animal.
Yeah.
But also too, it makes me think about, didn't we have a whole episode about like that acorn?
Yeah, the third eye.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
That pineal gland.
Fascinating. Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, should I go into paragraph 30 now?
Yes, let's do
Okay.
it. This is basically, now that we've gotten into the process and how to get into these states of consciousness, we're going to dive into the techniques that you can achieve when you finally have hemisynced both hemispheres of your brain. Some of these are actually pretty interesting. So, Ayla, take it away.
All right, great. Well, so one thing I'm going to notice, just for those of you listening, this is helpful to me. This is a paragraph number 30 with several subparagraphs. So just to
Mhm.
give you a preview, I'm going to just read the titles off. So paragraph 30, like Nick said, it's covering advanced techniques. So that's just an overview. The subparagraphs are titled problem solving, B, patterning, C, color breathing, D, energy bar tool, E, remote viewing, F, living body map, G, focus 15, travel into the past, H, focus 21, the future. So just to give you a preview of where we're going to go, I'll just start with the intro, and unless you have anything to say, I can just drop into the first paragraph, which would be
Yeah.
problem solving.
Mhm.
So here we go. Having reached focus 10, the participant is now ready to endeavor to achieve a state of sufficiently expanded awareness to begin actually interacting with dimensions beyond those associated with his experience of physical reality. This state is called Focus 12 and involves conscious efforts on his part while additional forms of, quote, pink and white noise, end quote, enter the sound stream being directed into his ears from the gateway tape. Once the participant has achieved this state of greatly expanded awareness, he is ready to begin employing a series of specific techniques or tools, as the Monroe Institute characterizes them, which enable him to manipulate his newly found expanded awareness to obtain practical, useful feedback of value for promoting self-discovery and personal growth. The specific techniques involved are described individually below. Anything there, guys? Or
Yeah, I just want to say that this is probably one of the reasons that the military took interest with this. These basically abilities or techniques would, to me, after we read them, they would seem invaluable to a intelligence gathering uh, apparatus.
oh yeah, you can read into the past and the future. Totally. And this is
Mhm.
why I was thinking of that movie, The Arrival, because, well, it's a good movie. I don't want to spoil it. Although I might have already. So sorry.
Late spoilers
Yeah.
warning. But yeah, no, it's what is up with this like focus level 10, focus level what happens at focus level 11?
I
All
know. And
right.
where was focus level 1 to 9? Or I
We
don't
went
remember.
through, yeah, we went through a couple of them basically. So by the time you're fully hemi-synced, they say that you're at focus 10. So all the other focuses before are trying to get your body to that point, like whether it's the meditation, whether it's the imagining of the cosmic or the egg of protection. Yeah, so like all of this is just kind of building up to the focus 10 where you can finally do all the things.
Oh, no, I do
Cool.
find it interesting too, like because I'll go to sleep with like coding problems and I'll dream of solving that problem, or like
Mm.
get into weird, I guess, hypnagogic states of where I'm actually still doing mental knowledge work. And the
Mhm.
first thing on this is problem solving. So now I'm just getting a little terrified.
But that is the best way to problem solve. Like, if I'm working on something and I'm like straining my mind, I'm like, no, I'm gonna go to bed and start again tomorrow. 9 times out of 10, the next day, I figured it out, and I'm like, why was that so hard? So,
Mm.
I mean, yeah, I could be sleep, but I also think that the subconscious knows how to maybe like recall information that you don't remember and then just work stuff out. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
like even small little naps. Like I've passed out on my desk before for 15 minutes and came back with an answer to a problem I did not have 16 minutes ago.
That's
Mm.
so cool.
It's It's terrifying. All right, so get into this paragraph.
Sure. Well, on the matter of problem solving, paragraph sub A, this technique involves identifying fundamental problems which the individual wishes to see solved, filling his expanded awareness with his perception of these problems, and then projecting them out into the universe. Deja vu. In this way, the individual enlists the assistance of what Monroe Institute calls his, quote, higher self, end quote. In other words, his expanded consciousness to interact with the universal hologram to obtain the information required to solve the problem. This approach may be used to solve personal difficulties, technical problems in the realm of physics, mathematics, etc., practical administrative problems, and so on. Responses to the problem-solving technique may be received almost immediately, but often they come based on developing intuition over the next 2 to 3 days. Frequently, the response comes in the form of a sudden holistic perception in which the individual suddenly finds that he simply knows the answer and all of its ramifications and completely in context, sometimes without even being able to put his newly found perception into words, at least initially. In some cases, the response may even arrive in the form of visual symbols, which the individual will, quote, see, end quote, with his mind while he is in the focus 12 state, and which he will have to interpret after he returns to normal consciousness. I'd buy it if they were selling it.
Yeah, definitely. I would too. I think it's really interesting, just this concept of the higher self and sort of tapping into asking the universe the question seems pretty intriguing to me. I also like that there's, probably different thresholds to the answer that you might get. And it seems important because I've definitely had those aha moments where I just for some reason know the answer to something, like Mike was saying, that you perhaps didn't even consider. And I think that the concept of divine inspiration kind of comes up when I think about this. Is maybe they were on to something when they talk about this idea of divine inspiration. Perhaps we are plucking from the divine when we find the answers to things that we didn't know before.
I can see that. I find it too interesting that it could be a visual thing, that you have to work to somehow
decode it.
Yeah, decode it or translate it to this level of consciousness, and you may not even be able to speak words about it or speak in a clear language. You just kind of have to solve the problem, right?
Yeah. I think that's interesting too, because I think I've experienced this, and I'm sure a lot of us have, where it's you get really into fixing something or solving a problem, and somebody might be around you and they're like, hey, what are you doing? And you're like, shush, 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 shush. Don't talk. And you're furiously trying to work on the problem as quickly as you can because you think you're going to lose that thing. So yeah, I definitely can see where it's it becomes non-linguistic information. It becomes abstract symbolic information. And that's really, really incredible thinking about that, because and I'm sure Mike could tell you all about it, but symbols definitely carry a lot more power than we perhaps realize.
There's the engineer's curse. I think all engineers go through this though, where someone asks you to fix something but they want an answer. It's I can either start to fix it now or I can explain the process, and it takes far longer to actually fix the thing that you want fixed.
Totally.
That it's a flow state, because I've read some research too that programmers they end up using both left and right sides of their brain at the same time, or they pass it back and forth, so you get closer to a conscious hemisync, right? And once you get into this flow of non-linguistic problem solving through the use of visual symbols, there's been times where someone has tapped me on the shoulder and I forgot that anybody in the world existed, including myself, and jumped out of my seat. Right,
because you're so deep into it.
Yeah, and there's another time where I forgot I had a face. I looked in the mirror and I terrified myself. That might just be because I'm ugly, but that initial look, you're oh, that's right, I'm a human.
Who the fuck is that?
Like that dog being scared of its own reflection
Right.
sort of thing.
Yeah,
Oh man,
totally.
but that dog was also having an existential crisis, if you remember.
Well, yeah, but like that whole process of getting into that flow state where you're so deep and involved in that problem, I mean, it's a powerful thing. You condense, solving problems in such a short time because those symbols hold more meaning and more expression than like a typical language would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I definitely see that. It's really kind of fascinating to me because, like I have a book of symbols that was one of my favorite books, like of all of the books that I own. And I'll just read it over and over again, like, and just look at all of the different symbols and their histories and what they mean and how old they are. And it's like, we've been playing with these concepts, for thousands and thousands of years. So it would make sense that they, like you say, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So, it's very true. It's very true. You can see something in your mind, and it, like you said, the engineers struggle. It's like I could explain this to you for the rest of the day, or I could just do it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I guess like I should give like a concrete example, right? So there's like in set theory, you have certain symbols to express things like, for every podcaster, there exists one podcaster that does something, and that can be expressed in 6 or 7 symbols. That whole sentence, just boom. And then you can think about all the repercussions for this one existence of this podcaster. And it condenses all that problem solving into such few symbols that it becomes insanely efficient to solve certain problems with. And that's like an ancient, symbolic language.
So maybe makes me kind of think that the universe running on symbols as well. I mean, like it's either as close to a computer simulation as we can get, or it is a computer simulation.
Can we just get the patch where we get superheroes and super?
That would be amazing. They get all the, like the DLC. Yeah. Give me my DLC already.
Don't make me pay for it either. It needs
Yeah.
to be free.
It should be free for sure.
But I wonder too if there's a linguistic issue with connecting to the universe, right? Because that sounds very woo-woo. Like we don't know what that means. But maybe it could be a product of not being able to explain in this conscious type realm, in this language, what that actually entails, what that means as far as reaching out to your higher self.
I'd like to see it in a math equation, to be honest. I think that would be kind of interesting just to look at. I might even, try to look for a math equation that explains this concept and then frame it.
Consciousness equation.
Yes.
Right. But I'm glad that you brought up the math equation, because I was thinking about this, and I don't know if this is going to go anywhere. I'll try to be quick about it. But when I was in high school, I was really good at calculus, and people used to ask me for help. And what I thought was really funny was that, like, when I was reading the book, every single lesson just made sense. Like every single upcoming problem or formula, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But then I would, help a friend, and they would tell me like what they thought about the formula or the problem. They would show me like a hole, and I'd be like, gosh, you make a good point. And I would sit there and I would actually like absorb the wrong understanding that they had. And then I would get stuck, and I'd be like, I don't know how. Oh, okay. And then I would like figure out like where the issue was. But sometimes there wouldn't be an issue. And then like I ended up boarding with a math major and finding out that like, yeah, that intuition was right on, because then like, 7 classes down the road, you find out that that formula is kind of flawed in certain circumstances. And if you think about it in that way. And so anyway, the reason I bring it up is because I think that perception and understanding, it's like it makes sense until it doesn't make sense. And I say that because every time you have a thesis, there's going to be an antithesis. Even if it makes sense here, it might not make sense in some 5th dimensional reality. So to that, like, it makes me wonder about the nature of making sense, like the nature of truth, essentially. Like there's truth, there's no truth. And
Right.
that's the truth.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that it's a good representation or illustration of how perhaps this kind of works in a semi-vacuum state, right? How other people's linguistic interpretations can paint your reality. Like it seems to me is that, once you started absorbing other people's sort of confusion about a problem, you started to feel that confusion too. Whereas before, perhaps it was all making much more sense to you, but you didn't have to contend with another person's perception of it. And I
Well,
think that
yeah.
there's something really interesting in this concept of perhaps we always do have the answers, but we kind of allow society, other people, our language to create our reality and kind of put us in the box of not knowing.
True. But I also think that, like, what I learned from that experience is that just because you keep getting the right answer doesn't mean that the person who gets the wrong answer is like dumb or something like that. Because in one of those cases, they were realizing a situation that was like a really advanced level issue. And like, all my problems were coming up right. I had no reason to contemplate reasons for why it wasn't working, but my friend did. And so while she was working it out, I just remember like she's bringing up a good point, and I don't know how to reconcile that. And I wouldn't have gotten that exposure if she didn't get this problem wrong. And so just in terms of like the idea of problem solving, I think that like just as humans, we do ascribe a lot of emotions to problem solving, but just from like a standpoint, I do think that when you get a wrong answer, that's in some ways a gift, because you're teasing out something that's not generally teased out. You know what I mean?
Well, in
Sure.
some cases, yes.
In some
Well,
cases, yeah.
'cause there's sub realities you contend with, right? Like I'm sure that advanced level of the subset of problems where that formula didn't work, there's a reason why they don't expose that to you initially, right?
Mhm.
And as far as like getting things wrong, I mean, sometimes you have to get through wrong answers to get to right answers. It's just
Mhm.
sort of the way it all works. But I find it interesting that through that interaction, you kind of expanded your awareness and used intuition. This again, non-verbal, non even a more symbolic sort of thing to pick up on something that you confirmed much later down the road. Like another really basic example of this is like high school physics classes, right? They don't pretend friction is not a thing. What do you mean friction's not a thing? But for
I'm
this
feeling
subset
friction
of
now, buddy.
problems,
No.
yeah, it was like subset of problems. There's a reason why that wasn't there,
Mhm.
and expanding out those realities, I guess, might be a way to expand awareness overall. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's okay to get things wrong from time to time. It's part of the process.
Yeah, and I think that like also too, like the definition of wrong is just counter to what is. And so I bring that up because again, this Arrival movie is like tripping me up, but it's the idea that like um you could sense something is off, or you could sense that there's like a missing link somewhere. And you would have to get a PhD in theoretical blah 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 in order to be like, oh yeah, no, that is a thing, you know, or it's a thing 100 years from now. And so to me, I just think about like, our books are always rewritten, especially like with science and math and stuff like that. And if you think about like the kids who were doing math in school 100 years ago, there's some things that they did that were wrong. And um, I had like a weird point. I think the point is that like the languages, this is a Wittgenstein thing. So I think this is probably just me thinking of an old conversation we had, that, your language and your culture really shape the way that you understand your reality and the way you approach problems. And so what I think is interesting about this problem solving is they're like, get away from the words and embrace images, embrace feeling. And I heard this amazing quote that it said, words are just your finger pointing at the moon. that there's and it's kind of like a roomy thing too, right? That like our words only get us so far. Our math formulas only get us so far. There's still something we're grasping for, and we know there's a gap there, and we're heading towards it. So I don't know. I love this paragraph. I love the title, problem solving. It's just really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah. Working in hypergogic stakes is cool. Your analytic math sucks.
Analytic math.
Excel,
Yeah.
like your
Seems like there's a lot
calculus
of room for error in that.
stuff. Someone's gonna be mad at me for saying that.
And they should comment. Well, let's you guys want to go to patterning?
Yeah.
Nick, anything?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. Section B, patterning. This technique involves use of the consciousness to achieve desired objectives in the physical, emotional, or intellectual sphere. It involves concentration on the desired objective while in a focus 12 state, extension of the individual's perception of that objective into the whole expanded consciousness, and its projection into the universe with the intention that the desired objective is already a matter of established achievement, which is destined to be realized within the time frame specified. This particular methodology is based on the belief that the thought patterns generated by our consciousness in a state of expanded awareness create holograms which represent the situation we desire to bring about, and in so doing, establish the basis for actual realization of that goal. Once the thought-generated hologram of the sought-after objective is established in the universe, it becomes an aspect of reality which interacts with the universal hologram to bring about the desired objective, which might not, under other circumstances, ever occur. In other words, the technique of patterning recognizes the fact that since consciousness is the source of all reality, our thoughts have the power to influence the development of reality in time-space as it applies to us, if those thoughts can be projected with adequate intensity. However, the more complicated the objective sought and the more radically it departs from our current reality, the more time the universal hologram will need to reorient our reality sphere to accommodate our desires. Monroe trainers caution against attempting to force the pace of this process because the individual could succeed in dislocating his existing reality with drastic consequences.
Dun dun dun.
Manifester beware. God, all this
Yeah.
stuff just seems like the hippies got onto this, and then like 10 years later, they're all writing books about like just this source material. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot better, and I like this explanation a lot better than The Secret.
Right.
But I also think that there's an importance here, in this concept of, the more it diverges from our existing reality, the longer it takes for the universe to sort of fall into form. And that kind of reminds me of, just the laws of inertia, and going against the grain. And I think that that's why, people have such a hard, concept for this manifestation thing. Everybody's trying to manifest a yacht and a mansion and a nice car, when in reality it's like, well, no, I mean, the easier things to manifest are smaller. There are things like being happy, feeling content, having a good day, things like that. Yes, maybe not so grandiose, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to put my energetic eggs in the basket of material, but I guess it could, like in a sense pay off. I just don't know how long do you have to concentrate on that and meditate on it.
I
Right.
guess it depends how far you are initially from having a yacht, right? If you have
Right.
yacht money,
True.
then you can just
Fair
go
enough.
buy a yacht.
That's
So,
true. You think about it, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, bleep bloop bloop bloop. I'd like a yacht, please."
So it's sort of like what I see this as is cool. Like, if you want to buy a yacht, if it's the material world thing, then you have to imagine how you're going to get the money to get the yacht, right? And you take it another step back as to like what jobs or what things am I going to have to do to get that money, and then You break it down to like little sub problems to a pattern of holograms.
Hmm.
Each one that you have to get through in order to get to that end hologram. But if it's, divergent widely from the established reality, like if I want a yacht, I'm gonna have to do a lot of work to get that
Right, me
yacht.
too.
Right?
Yeah, it's very true.
Being broke, it's like you just got to do all that work to get to the end point of a yacht. But if you're rich, it's far less work, I guess. Energetic work, physical work.
Isn't
all
that funny that the material manifestation is so easy for the wealthy, but the spiritual manifestation is so easy for the poor?
Yeah. I mean, if I think the universe works in a balance, then that might be one of the big balances, right? You can either
Hmm.
have that material wealth, but and in turn, you have to deal with a lot of spiritual and emotional stress because you have to
Hmm.
do stuff to get that material that you may compromise your own morals or may compromise yourself, right?
Hmm.
Whether it be, kissing your boss's butt to get that raise, to invest in that thing, to get that money, to go get that yacht, or you take the criminal route where you know, sort of compromise yourself in another way to get that money
Hmm.
much quicker.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but it kind of makes sense as far as like the universal balance thing goes.
I agree. Yeah.
And I always wonder though, because it's like your end game is a yacht. Like, just go rent a yacht for a day. Get it, like, you can get 10 friends and rent a yacht for like $100 a piece. In fact, I have often wondered maybe my friends and I should rent a yacht for a day.
I'm
Um,
certain it's not $100 a piece, but yeah, I get what you
well, it's
mean.
$100 a piece for like I think 2 or 3 hours.
For
But
a
yeah, I mean, but do
dinghy.
you want to be? No, these are legit yachts in
You know how
Newport.
much
My
how much
yacht.
fuel costs?
Hey, I mean, they're renting them out. I'm just saying, I've seen it.
Wait, does that come with the full crew as well, or do you have to know how
Yeah,
to
you have
drive
to
the yacht?
supply the crew, and yeah.
Oh, geez, Rick.
No, they're like these little afternoon yacht tours that you can take. So they probably don't have all the amenities of certain yachts. You can't like abuse your crew like the rich people do in those shows where
Well,
they
that's
have
half
like
the fun. Come on.
no, that's not okay.
Well, what's the
Um,
point of having a yacht now if I can't
Exactly.
just be mean to my crew?
If
oh
I
my
can't
God,
throw
no.
people overboard, I'm not in.
You have like an actual plank. No, I watched this reality show and it was like centered about people who work on yachts, like the cooks on a yacht or the housekeeping on a yacht and stuff. And like I probably watched like 2 episodes, but man, like the whole yacht culture. Oof, I think if I actually got on a yacht, I'd probably want to get
Okay,
right
let's
off.
let's not get caught up on
True.
the,
But
the you
yeah,
know
but
what I
the
meant.
point, yeah, no, I know. But the point that I was going to say is that like I think when people say they want a yacht, they're missing the point. And I wonder if that kind of materialism that is kind of misdirected is part of the reason why they can't access that stuff so quickly. Kind of like you were saying, you can manifest a good day or happiness in the moment, calm. But these other things that are super far away, I just wonder if it's like there's a reason it's so far away. Like Mike was saying, there's just so many different steps to get there. But then once you get there, it's like, do you really want to be there? Because I kind of
Well,
feel
I
like,
also think that the materialism aspect is, I mean, it might be in a different domain than the sort of spiritual attainment aspect. So we might be looking at two different sides of the same coin.
perhaps.
Like it might, because if you're an angry person or a hot-headed person, it may be very hard to manifest calm in any given moment. Right? You may have to do as much work, or maybe even more work than the person striving for the material thing.
True.
Even if the material person doesn't know what they really want. Because anytime someone says they want a yacht, what I hear is they want financial security.
Mhm.
And they just haven't worked on the problem enough to see that's the thing that they actually want. But
Yeah, and like, what if you're super clumsy like me? I would spill stuff all over the place. That would not be a good day. Like,
But,
be
like,
stressed.
on the material side or on the immaterial side, right? If you're an angry person and like you're trying to get calm, and maybe you can do it to like 1 or 2 people you don't know. But if you're around somebody that you know quite well and you're quite comfortable with them, all of a sudden all that energy gets placed onto them, right? You start lashing out at them in different tiny ways because you have to vent that emotion somehow. It's a buildup of energy. So it might not even, it just might be more difficult to even remain, to get to that level to where you can manifest that calm in any situation across all the people in your life. Like it may take more steps within this pattern that you're trying to build. Like what I like this for too is working on the body. Like I want to get to the point where I can do 100 push-ups a day, or I want to get to the point where I can run 6 miles in a day without stopping. So first, I do 1 push-up, or I run 1 mile, or half a mile, or 200 feet, whatever. And then you build on you build those holograms out. You imagine yourself doing that, and then you manifest it through your action. And then little by little over time, you get to that end goal.
Mm-hmm.
See where this sort of pattern building within, if you're a visual thinker at least, could be very beneficial, because you can start to divide your problems into sub problems that become more manageable.
Yeah, and I think that this is where the secret and this like woo-woo manifestation new age stuff falls short, is that it supposes that intention is just enough and then things will fall into place. No, I mean it's intention plus effort equals goal. So
look at my love life. That's very true.
Yeah, you can wish for things as much as you like, but like it's also about recognizing the opportunity to make a step towards that goal, and sometimes you need to think about what the end goal is before you can recognize the steps that it takes to get there. Like I definitely can relate to that. Like if there's a goal I want in mind, then I become a lot more aware of the opportunities that point me to that end goal. And then you take those, like you say, you take those little holographic steps each and every time you get closer and closer to the thing that you want.
Yeah. And I also too, like I do agree, but I think if it's completely self-reliant goals that you're looking for, like for example, for me, I like to software engineer in my free time. So if I want to make a program, if I don't create those little holographic goals, it becomes completely overwhelming. And I have no way to actually attain that goal. So like you may have opportunities around you to kind of point you in the right direction, but yeah, if you're not aware, then they're not going to help you achieve your self wanted goals. I don't think that's the proper wording, but yeah, it becomes overwhelming because you don't have a pattern, or you don't have a way to achieve this bigger thing.
Yeah, the inertia hasn't built up yet. Yeah, you definitely got to push the ball or the boulder for quite some time before it can start rolling down the hill.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd agree. Well, let's see. The next section is color breathing. Shall I continue on?
Please.
Forging ahead. So section C, color breathing. The next technique is called color breathing and is designed to use the expanded awareness and highly focused attentiveness associated with the Focus 12 state to imagine various colors in a particularly intense and vivid manner, so as to use them to resonate with and in turn to activate the body's own energies. Fundamentally, in terms of practical application, it is a healing technique which is designed to restore the body and to enhance its physical capabilities by balancing, revitalizing, and returning bodily energy flows. It is predicted on the principle that the body's electromagnetic field is capable of altering its resonance pattern so as to entrain energy from the Earth's electrostatic field for its own use. Various colors envisage in the imagination as part of the technique cue the mind as to which frequencies and what specific amplitudes are desired in connection with this entrainment and the subsequent alterations in bodily energy flow patterns. The color has the capacity to affect the human mind. The color has the capacity to affect the human mind is well known. That color. Okay, got it. Sorry, it's starting to get
a little weird.
Yeah, and it's diagonal now, so I can't tell which sentence I'm on. Okay, so that color has the capacity to affect the human mind is well known, and the effectuality of color in certain kinds of healing is a demonstrable effect. For example, application of an intense blue light to an area of physical tomb sense leads to relatively rapid and easily observable reduction in the swelling, while red and to a lesser extent yellow have quite the opposite effect. However, in the hemisync application of the technique, external light sources are not involved, but rather the mind is the sole agent of the healing and revitalization. Well, that's interesting. I never thought to meditate on colors.
Yeah, I really like this concept. I thought the same thing when I first read it. I was like, yeah, that is kind of interesting, the concept of meditating on a color. And, obviously colors being different bands of light waves kind of makes me think a little bit, because it's like, wow, I mean, and the concept of also kind of taking the Earth's electrostatic energy and mixing it into a color in order to seek the result you want. I think that's really kind of fascinating. I mean, we get into the concept of chakra colors and color therapy. And it seems to make sense to a certain extent. It probably would be the most beneficial if you were able to get to focus 12. But yeah, I mean, you even think about the way color in advertising works, right? Fast food companies tend to have yellow and red because it makes customers get in and leave. That's the yellow and red tend to invigorate urgency in a consumer, and so they come and they leave and they don't linger. Whereas restaurants with more earthy tones tend to let the customer relax a little bit and stay a little bit longer.
I wonder if that pink and white noise is like an early introduction to this sort of stuff. Do you find it intriguing too that it's centered around healing? And as you said earlier, color therapy that tends to have a psychological effect. Look at you can also look at in film and in movies, the filters that you choose to use can have an effect on the mood of the audience. So it's I can find it kind of difficult to try to imagine certain colors, but I guess it makes sense because we're so subjective in our ideas of colors, right? Like the color blue to me is not the same as your blue or Ayla's blue, and your blue is not the same as mine or Ayla's, and same thing for Ayla's with respect to me and you.
Rods and cones, baby.
Well, just even different hues of, like, when I think of red, I think of a certain hue of red, and you might think of a different hue of red.
Even looking at an object, like, we can all agree that it's red, but we all see it slightly differently, right? But to use that in your imagination and try to do that to physically heal yourself or psychologically heal yourself is pretty fascinating.
Oh yeah, and I think that, like, the idea of charges, I never thought about the or electrostatic energy of the earth. And I was just Googling what is electrostatic energy of the earth. And I got some really interesting little factoids, like atmospheric energy is always present. And then during fine weather away from thunderstorms, so like under most circumstances, the air above the earth is positively charged while the earth's surface is negative. And then it also says that in the human body, our cells are specialized to conduct electrical currents. So resting cells are negatively charged on the inside, while the outside environment is more positively charged, due to a slight imbalance between positive and negative ions inside and outside the cell. Which just, I don't know. I mean, like, I guess I'm thinking about, like, the idea of earthing. Have you ever tried this, where people say that, like, you take your shoes off and you walk barefoot on dirt or grass or something, and the idea is that you're charging, I guess, what, your exterior positively charged self with the Earth's surface, which is negative, to create like a nice neutrality.
Calming.
Yeah, it's supposed to be calming. And, you know, I mean, I've definitely tried it and it's calming, but I always just thought it was because I was outside and it's relaxing to be outside. But maybe there is really something to this kind of electrical stuff, and to think about colors as like a means to access these things. Like, there are some meditations, now that I think about it, where they'll say like, imagine a purple light
Mm-hmm.
coming down the crown of your head,
Right.
down to your shoulders, you know, like that kind of meditation. Um, and so, and with Reiki, they talk about it being a purple light energy, which I think is interesting because the history of Reiki is older than this. So,
Hmm. Yeah, and I think about like cities, right? I think about cities, like the happiest cities in the world, or some of the happiest cities are like in Denmark, and like Copenhagen, I believe in particular, is like every house is a bright color. And you know, like literally every building is like either a really bright primary red or a primary blue or green or yellow. And it kind of makes me think about like if you're surrounding yourself with lots of color, then perhaps you tend to be a happier person. Because I also think about the opposite of that, where it's like you have a totalitarian regime type of country. What usually happens? Well, brutalism architecture happens, grays happen, a lot of very muted colors happen. And I wonder if that has anything to do with the psychology, or affecting the psychology of the inhabitants.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like if your
yeah.
body can pick up all of, like, even just the simple static electricity, right?
Mm.
All those electromagnetic waves flowing through those cities, I definitely think it has at least psychological effects on you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would think that there's probably something. It would be a really interesting study, I'm sure. You know how color in society affects the population.
Imagine also if you had like a wider wider senses to pick up UV and IR, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how it would cause some sort of radiating effect, like they either charge or dump out electricity, right, to these
Mm-hmm.
ions in your cells and throughout your body. It would be. I wonder if we could get to the point, or if these sort of practitioners can get to the point where they can imagine infrared light, and then what that does to the body.
Mm-hmm.
They can imagine UV light, and then what that does to the body.
Yeah, that's a fascinating idea. Yeah, color is a really interesting concept, and we definitely had a podcast Mike did about
Mhm.
light and sound, and that's a really good one if you want to check that out. But yeah, it's always been really fascinating. I think we have these glasses, or I used to have these glasses that were like color therapy glasses, but they were I think indigo colored for the third eye, and I would put them on. It was like being in a different world. I felt like I was on an alien land, and it was so like isolatory and really cool feeling. And I miss those glasses. I need to go get some when we go back up to Shasta.
Definitely creates
Definitely.
changes your mood. I remember wearing some of those and just
That's
yeah, you,
right.
yeah, you definitely feel quite different with them on versus off, especially after your brain gets used to seeing things in that light, and then you
Hmm.
take them off and you're like, oh yeah, things look quite different.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And
right.
also too in Shasta, the light there compared to Los Angeles at least is much different.
Mm.
Like everything looks
Bright.
High def.
Yeah.
not high yeah, a little brighter. I guess the white value is upped a bit, but you can definitely, it's something you can notice if you look at it. It's, I don't even know if it's subtle or not, but if you once you're aware of it, you can not see it.
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
we need to take you back up there, man. As I don't think we've taken you to like the top of the mountain when it's open, but some of the meadows up there, I've found plants that I've never seen before
Oh
ever.
yeah,
Like,
the who plants.
yeah, they're like these
Hmm.
Dr. Seuss looking plants up there. Um, and it's just very still. And I think too, you know, obviously you're going to get like the albedo effect of lots of snow-covered mountains, but just being so high up, the blue of the sky is something I've It's a rare blue.
I wonder too, not to bring it back a little bit though, if you can, because we talked about how influence can change people's holograms, right? They're what I take as imagination. I wonder if you can get people to imagine certain colors that will actually harm their psychological state or physical
Ooh,
state.
good question. I
To
think yes.
weaponize these sorts of things.
Well, just when you said that, I got all like, "Ugh."
Yeah. Well, look, I am 100% certain that if these things are in fact true, we found a way to weaponize them. So,
And like,
yeah.
what mediums would that take? Because like in our podcasts, in that Likes and Sounds podcast, I alluded to like film and TV being one of the main mediums. So then could you turn a television program into a psychological weapon through
I think
through
so.
a color palette?
Or just look at the generation of iPhones. Right now they're rolling out these like super colorful iPhones. Maybe because they're like, society needs a boost. They need the color iPhone.
Yeah. Well, and also just the luminosity of the screens as well. I would imagine that, they could tap into just the luminance of the screen and maybe, adjust the hertz to a frequency that would negatively affect somebody.
Weird.
Or even, plant some subliminal images in there. Why not? It refreshes so quickly. It's not like you're going to notice. It's just going to look like a little iPhone glitch. Like, oh, every 36 hours, my screen just flashes a little bit brighter than I'm used to. It's weird.
Yeah. Ooh, creepy. The implications.
I don't want to think about I mean, that's the funny thing is like we've had so many technological advances in so many different areas and we just assume everybody's being really good with it. But then you start wondering like, gosh, there is a lot of potential for like bad stuff.
Color as a weapon though, I think is really cool and at least fascinating.
we need an Avengers with that. Like maybe some Sesame Street crossover and like one of the characters is like, I'm gonna weaponize color.
I think there might be a DC villain that does that, like from the good old comic book code days when everything was censored. Anyways,
I'm gonna get Dijon on this. Do you guys want to talk about the energy bar tool next?
No, let's just skip all the rest.
Okay, because this is about magic wands.
It's a rhetorical question, I suppose.
All right. So, energy bars, Cliff bars, nut bars. Let's go. No, that's not what it's about. Okay, so it starts out magic wands and enchanted scepters. Yeah, because a lot of like English kings and queens have the scepters. Okay. They've been part of the folklore and occult practices of many cultures. The scepters, staffs, and maces carried by monarchs and high priests alike occur with such frequency in the history of bygone eras as to suggest that, at the very least, these items are aspects of some type of archetypal symbol which the human mind seems to appreciate, perhaps quite subliminally. In any case, the energy bar tool technique involves envisaging a small, intensely pulsating dot of light, which the participant charges in his imagination with enormous energy until it is virtually pulsating. The participant then extrudes the dot into the shape of a sparkling, vibrating cylinder of energy, which he then uses to channel force from the universe to select parts of his body for purposes of healing and revitalization. Cool.
Very cool. Very Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Very Doctor Strange. That's right.
Indiana Jones status. Isn't there
Indiana Jones.
There's like the little staff and he slams it to the ground.
Yes.
At the right angle.
Jafar.
Yeah. The scepter and the staff has always been sort of a powerful symbol of wisdom and royalty and.
The human mind seems to appreciate it. That's like my favorite line so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we do appreciate these types of things. And I do like this concept of an energy bar tool because it, you think of yourself doing like a diagnostic scan in your imagination, you know, like, you know,
Oh yeah.
I could see it like looking like one of those futuristic, you know, movies where the guy is getting scanned. It's like a little dot and then it stretches out to a bar and that goes from his head to his toes and then switches around. You know,
Well, also too, like I've done Tai Chi classes where they talk about sensing your, I don't know, your chi, and they have you, you know, pulsate your hands together and you start to create this like chi ball. And I think that like the idea of maybe like a spherical energy pulsating source, like just the idea that it's pulsating gives it this kind of like energy cultivation, which I could totally see as even just like a mental focus tool can help to bring you into this state of like, okay, I'm abundant of energy kind of thing.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have anything else to say on that, but I think it's a cool meditation practice. I would like to try to meditate on that as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
could you? Yeah, you could. Does this imply that you could meditate an energy staff and then channel your energy through that meditated staff?
Yeah,
Virtually pulsating. Yeah, I mean, you need somewhere to focus your energy, right? In any case, like even just general meditation, that's kind of what you try to do.
Well, and what I think is really interesting is we have an Oculus Quest system, and there's this meditation on there where you can kind of like customize it. But one of the things it does is it generates a pulsating sphere of light for you to meditate on. And it'll do breathing exercises. So your breathing is supposed to sync with the sphere, or you're supposed to, your eyesight guides the sphere and you can navigate it through these mosaic patterns. And by doing so, you can like successfully like you get this like, it's a little bit of a gamified meditation system, but it's interesting because you know, this is asking us to use our imagination. But with VR technology, you can actually engineer an experience like this, and you can start to do studies to get closer and closer to what your imagination should be doing via VR, which I think is
well,
also really dope.
I think it would be interesting to do studies about, you know, VR versus the imagination vis-a-vis this type of meditation exercise, because I wonder if
Hmm.
you're not losing something by augmenting yourself with a screen.
You know, I was gonna
Yeah.
say that you might end up needing VR as a crutch in order to imagine these things, which like may limit the amount of energy that you can produce in these meditations.
I wonder, but I also think that, like, let's say you're having a stressful day and a stressful week and a stressful month and year and decade. I think that some
Stressful
of these
life.
tools, yeah, stressful life, I think some of these tools are really good to just interrupt that. And it almost seems like training wheels. So I feel like maybe we could think of the VR meditations as like training wheels. And then after you do it a number of times when you're going to bed, you can more easily visualize that. And then because you're calm, you can start to entertain
But the
the abundant
question is,
potentiality of
All of these
imagination.
are you visualizing a true energy ball of light, or are you visualizing the digital one?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that you would eventually fill in the gaps because our memory is not great, and it's debatable if we're even seeing what we see when we think we're seeing at night. You know what I mean? Like if you close your eyes and you picture a cat, like you can see the cat, I can see the cat, but like
Oh, I
what's
see like a
seeing it?
hybrid of a cat with
Oh
like,
gosh.
you know, melting features that's morphing into other things that I'm thinking about. I can never keep my hand. And this is one of my issues. I cannot keep my mind on one thing. That's one of the hardest things for me. So it might be useful for me to just try to focus on one little pixel of light.
I
Yeah,
have
like I think it won't
3 cats
harm.
in my
You have
mind.
3 cats. Oh, okay, okay,
The
guys.
the
Okay.
out the outline from Lion King, Sabrina's cat from the Teenage Witch.
The
Nice.
janky cat that's all
Yeah, and,
jacked.
yeah, and then the Cheshire cat from Alice in Wonderland.
Nice.
Those are.
Nice.
So wait, are you like this might work for a non-visual thinker though? Like,
I don't know.
are
I
you
mean,
are you a visual thinker or not?
I don't know how I think, to be honest with you. It's debatable. I'm doing a lot of thinking about how I think right now, and
Yeah, it's
it's
hard to kind
debatable.
of pinpoint how one thinks. I guess I would try to. I don't even know how I would think either, to be honest. I mean, I definitely think in images sometimes, but then I think in narrative sometimes as well.
Yeah. I
So I
kind of
don't know.
think like movies. But then the
Yeah,
funny thing is like to your question, Mike, people will say that we apparently don't dream in color. Like it's impossible for us to dream in
some
color,
people
but
don't dream in color.
is it some, not all?
Yeah, no, not all.
I dream in
Okay.
color.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say I have very vivid dreams. And like so but that's what I'm saying is like I think there was a point where there were these alls and they're starting to know there's some. Like there are people who think in words and people who think in images. And
Or a mixture of both.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Mike, you said you think in symbols sometimes. And I totally get that too. Like sometimes
They're
email I'm just
images of symbols.
yeah, right. No,
Right.
I kind of get that. Like sometimes I'm jamming through my emails and it's like it could be that flow state, but it's just kind of like I have readily accessible to me every single response that I need. And I get through like 50 emails in 10 minutes. I'm just and then other times I'm like, oh, what do I where do I go? I have to click and it just seems like 1,000 steps. But other times it's not 1,000 steps. It's just one step that codifies 1,000 steps. And that's more comfortable for me. But I don't know if that's like that's what I mean. I've been observing my thinking recently and I'm like,
That is not a good idea for you. As somebody who is an incredibly cerebral, and I say that out of much love and respect, yeah, maybe you shouldn't try to inspect your inspection.
no,
And
I mean
if you think in words, tell me what language you think of them.
Yeah.
no, I know.
But
Well,
if you
it's
think in
weird.
images, tell me how high def can you get those images?
I
Yeah,
know.
true.
Well, what's messed up about language is that, like, if I'm thinking in English, that's one thing. But if I try to think in another language, every language that's not English comes into play. So if I know part of a sentence in Japanese, I fill in the rest in like Navajo or Spanish or French.
Yeah. The most Spanish I ever spoke was in German class.
Nice. Yeah. It's just your
bizarre.
mind is grasping. You're like, I don't know. It's not English. Taco or I don't know. Like, gosh,
But
yes.
if you had, that energy staff, maybe you'd be able to focus
Maybe.
all that energy and thoughts
Mhm.
into one language or one specific image.
Oh, totally. Well, and you know what? I have to mention this now because it's just we're talking about this stuff, but I came across the most delicious YouTube meditation person. Her name's like Rhea Earth, and she has these longer meditations. They're usually like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but check it out. It's REA space Earth. And she just has a bunch of them about like accessing the universe within you or witnessing your universal self. And what I like about it is that most of the meditations aim at like peeling away the mask that we think we are and getting into this space of quietude where we just embrace so much that could be. And I really like that idea. It's really positive. And yeah, if you're listening to this now, I'm sure you would dig it.
Cool.
Yeah. Should I go on to remote viewing next?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, in addition, the energy bar tool is used as a portal for initiating a follow-on technique called remote viewing. In this context, the participant turns his bar of energy into a whirling vortex through which he sends his imagination in search of new and illuminating insights. The apparent purpose of the symbolism involved in the vortex seems to be to cue the subconscious and convey to it instructions as to what the participant wishes to do, but in terms of nonverbal symbols, which the right hemisphere of the mind is capable of understanding. Oh, there go those symbols again. Whew,
Mm-hmm. I definitely
pretty
would like to
crazy.
do this in meditation. Like,
Hell yeah.
I mean, I don't think I've ever tried to open a portal in my imagination. I really want to
Right.
try this now.
Well, and that's why I like this meditation lady, because a lot of this stuff is reminding me of her, because the way she describes things, I think it's just it activates your imagination, and something about activating the imagination pieces of your brain is really like fulfilling and cool or something. I don't know
Uh-huh.
if that's the right word, but like curiosity, like let's say something happens and you react to it. You're reacting off of the words, your experience, past trauma, whatever. But if you take a minute and you just get curious about it, I really feel like that shifts you into a different place where instead of responding or reacting to something, you now have a little bit of room to make a choice about that situation. So, like curiosity, imagination, I'm trying to think of like other things that give me that same vibe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Um. So like this energy bar tool uses a portal. Um. It's there's this idea that I have that uh, how do I want to? So like consciousness can be described as like a cut diamond with many faces, and we look through a certain prism of that diamond to see our own perspective. If I wonder if you focus enough on this that you can start to see other people's perspectives and start to
Mm.
remote view through, if not their eyes, their emotions. Like what a way to focus your energy to gather empathetic responses in a given situation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think the applications of being able to do this are pretty profound. I think that, I mean, it does seem like there'd be a big shift here if you could just create a vortex with which to like see symbols of things. I don't know. It's
Well,
And
like
then the
I've
fact that they talk about the right hemisphere being capable of understanding and like just thinking about the foundation that leads up to this, like syncing the hemispheres, getting to that hemisync state, that focus 12 or whatnot, and then
yeah,
taking it, you know?
one of the strangest hypnagogic experiences I had came about last year. I was laying in bed and got to that state, and there was like tears, I guess, at the edges of my eyes, and I could see somebody's arm that was not mine. And to be fair, I was trying to focus on. This is like when I first heard like the earlier podcasts, like a year ago. So I started to play around with this. Um,
Nice.
yeah. So I started to see somebody's arms that were not mine. I knew that because their arms were heavily tattooed, and I could see that like there was an object in their hand that was like a phone or something, but I couldn't quite tell what it was. But I wonder because when I think of vortex, I think of like some 2001 type feel, and this was very much what it was like, where it's like black and white tears at the corners of my eyes, at the corners of my mind's eye, with a vision of what was happening, and that just might be my imagination feeling all
Mm.
this stuff in between.
Mm.
But it was definitely nonverbal
Mhm.
symbols in this case that I'm now recalling verbally. But it was interesting to draw my focus onto one person, and at least within the hypnagogic state, use my imagination to fill in what that person was doing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's very interesting stuff. I have never done the sort of like portal creation thing before, but I think that would be actually a really useful tool in meditation and also into hypnagogia. I mean, hypnagogic exploring is probably the easiest way for me to get into some of these states. I mean, like I can like I see people that I've never seen before. I see their faces, I see their lives. Like like I gain information about random people that I've never met. Like I've seen people get shot. I've seen people like, and this comes with like auditory hallucination as well. I can hear conversations people are having. And so, yeah, there's definitely a weird thing going on with that hypnagogic state. Like you're definitely on the precipice of connecting to that astral plane, but still being conscious enough to understand it with your left brain.
You know, having
Yeah.
full conversation in dreams is bizarre. Like I've done it with that full auditory hallucination
Mm-hmm.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I just
no,
wonder if shared, like a shared dreams. I keep cutting A off.
no,
I
it's
wonder if
fine.
yeah, I wonder if it's a shared dream space though. So like if the people you interact with in those random dreams are also having the same dream, and whether or
Mm-hmm.
not they can recall it or not, you know, or maybe it might be a version of them from a very close parallel universe.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is all very interesting. And like, while I don't have the hypnagogic experience, I definitely have a long history of peculiar nightmares. And I say peculiar because I've definitely had a couple of dreams that came true. And I don't pretend to be like a psychic or anything. Like I couldn't tell you like which dreams are going to come true, but I do remember specifically one of them, and it was that I was co-experiencing a murder, and I could feel the particles of air being pushed aside by a knife as it approached the person, and I could feel the terror of the person. And I don't it was really weird because I felt everything. It was very vivid. I woke up and I was like sweating profusely. And a couple days later I find out that like a friend of mine died. And I was talking to his I don't get to specifics, but I was talking to a family member, and I, you know, I didn't want to be that person, but I was like, were they just trying to let them talk about it. And I kind of asked like, what happened? And when she started to describe what happened, I was like, I was there. Like I felt that like I knew what she was going to say before she said it. And I've never forgotten that moment because it just I don't know. I mean, it was like I obviously clicked into something, and even talking about it, it's like I can feel that moment very like it's just like encoded in my body somehow. And what's weird is after that I used to get a bunch of dreams where like people were dying, and I was like this weird angel of death to them up until my brother died and I was by his bedside, and then that went away. And so it's just weird because if you start to wonder about the dream space as some sort of weird, like we're other people's guardian angels or something like that would be really trippy. And that might not, like not always happen in this universe if there's multiple verses or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm just giving myself the heebie-jeebies, but just to
That's
add that experience because I do think there's something here. I don't know
yeah,
what, but
that pre pre like the dreams that are pretty much like premonitions, right? Or things to come. That's a
yeah.
shared human experience. There's I think a lot more people. There's definitely a bunch of people that go through that in various points of human history. Where
Yeah, they talk about it too. Like, in some true crime stories, they'll have incidences where somebody was having repeated dreams leading up to it, or there was some sort of shared experience there. So yeah, I think you're right.
so you might be tapping into that fifth dimension thing there.
Don't want it. I mean, like, I don't
Well,
know why
like
I had to go so dark, but
all
Jesus,
the other
like
human gifts, you don't get a choice.
that,
You
right,
just,
right, exactly, exactly. Oh gosh. Well, and it's funny because I remember around that time this movie came out. It was like 6 Feet Under or whatever, and it's this chick who dies, and then she has to become a Grim Reaper for so many years, and it was just like a really weird couple of years. I just was
Uh,
like,
like the darkness needs to be explored just as much as the light. It just might be easier to talk about the light, but without
I think
exploring the
so.
darkness, you don't get the whole picture of what's going on throughout human experience. It's a bad thing to ignore, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I think, yeah, and I think that's another word of caution too, right? Like, if you start opening yourself to this, like, make sure you have that egg. What was it? The egg
Like the energy
cone.
balloon,
Yeah. 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 Seems important.
that or have the will. There's Joe Rogan podcast where he was like, use your demons to fight other demons. Okay, all right, yeah, that can work.
Cool.
So if you reach those stakes, you can find the way to subjugate your demons like some sort of King Solomon, and then use them to fight the universe's demons.
So they become like your scepter.
Yeah.
Scepter demon. That might need to be a new shirt, guys. Well, should I go to living body map, or do you want to talk anything more about the remote viewing? Because
No, just go ahead.
okay. So living body map. This technique provides amplification for application of the energy bar tool as a means of healing specific areas or systems of the human body. The configuration of the participant's body is imagined, and then the various major systems, such as the nervous and circulatory systems, are envisaged in appropriate colors within the confines of the outline being held in the imagination. The energy bar tool is then applied to energizing, balancing, and healing in whatever manner the participant desires. In the process, the participant visualizes various streams of colored energy flowing out of the tool into the organ system or area upon which the revitalizing or healing application is being made. Since colors are the result of differing wavelengths of light, which is to say, energy at various frequencies, this technique operates on the assumption that as the human body is composed of energy, it can be vitalized and healed through the additive application of additional energy, provided that the energy is applied in the appropriate form. Seems straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. Kind of reminds me of there was this old internet video, folks. I don't even know if you'll remember this. Back in the old times when the internet was the Wild West, there was this video of doctors that were treating somebody with tumors, and they had an x-ray on the patient that showed a tumor somewhere in their body. And these doctors stood around the patient and chanted for about an hour. And they had a live sort of recording of the x-ray so that you could see the tumor. And over the hour, the tumor dissipated. And it just kind of reminds me of that concept of like, this sort of collective tapping in to heal, or maybe even like astrally hacking the body in order to heal itself, which is, pretty interesting. I mean, this is not medical advice, and, please don't take anything that we said here as fact, but it is a very interesting concept for sure.
I find it strange though that you need to use this energy bar tool in order to start to do some of these things, right? It's almost like a more advanced step in the advanced techniques.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to form this bar in order to start to use any of this.
Yeah, it's like the fundamentals. Yeah. The energy bar is like I just keep thinking of Doctor Strange when he had to make like the whip in his hands, it's like the only weapon he knows how to make, and it's like the basic weapon that everybody has to learn first, because it's like the jump off point to all the other magic.
Yeah. And then this notion of additive. So like in additive painting, right? You start off, is it black that you start, or with white? Or like you start with a color and then you add white to change the color or something like that, I believe. So you adding these energies, additional energy provides energies but in appropriate form. So like June, I wonder if you start off with like a base color, a base style of healing, whatever that color may be. Then you wanting to, target either the psyche or the body, assuming the psyche is a part of the body. Then, you can come up with the appropriate color to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that the use of color, again, that we're talking about right brain language, symbolic systems of right brain understanding. So definitely the use of color you could probably, I think of it like a hotkey, like it's a hotkey for, oh, you got this ailment. All right, let's think of chartreuse, or some hue of this color. And it's like, okay, that one's for that one. That one's for this one. And so, yeah, it would be kind of cool to build out your color palette to heal different things or solve different problems. I mean, like even adding the concept of color to the problem solving aspect as well.
The gamut. What does your color space look like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to say about the living body map. Again, it just reminds me of like new age practices where they talk about body scans, scan your body, send light to the areas
definitely.
that feel blah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that's
And,
pretty straightforward.
and whether it works or not, I mean, you'd feel relaxed afterwards. That's for sure.
How much?
I don't think it can hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it turn into a weapon. I think anything that can be used for healing, you can turn into a weapon. I think and use against others.
Shadow work.
And start hitting people with my energy rod.
God, I'm gonna be walking around the house and I'm gonna be like, and I'm like, stop practicing on me.
Just trip you with my
Don't
energy.
even say.
Picking a real Green Lantern sort of thing.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Well, also energy stick sounds a little dirty. Like,
yeah,
energy rod doesn't sound any better. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just mix the words life energy and then it gets real dirty.
Yeah, totally.
There it is. All right. Well, do you want to travel into the past when we weren't talking about energy rods? All right.
We got two more, G and then H, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, the politically correct term is energy bar tool. Thank you.
There you go. Energy bar tool. Sorry, I said energy rod.
Well, because these are both about time, should I just read both of them?
Well, let's just read the first one and then see if we need to stop.
Okay. Section G, Focus 15, Travel into the Past. All of the preceding techniques are conducted at the level of expanded awareness known as Focus 12. However, the technique of time travel into the past involves further expansion of consciousness through the inclusion of additional levels of sound on the hemisync tapes. Some of the sound is probably merely an intensification of the basic hemisync frequencies, being designed to further modify brainwave frequency and amplitude. Other aspects of the added sound patterns appear to be designed to provide subtle, almost subliminal suggestions to the mind as to what is desired by way of further expanded consciousness, so as to support the verbal suggestions and instructions also contained on the tape. Even the instructions are highly symbolic, with time being visualized as a huge wheel in the universe with various spokes, each of which gives access to a different part of the participant's past. Focus 15 is a very advanced state and is extremely difficult to achieve. Probably less than 5% of all participants in any given gateway experience actually fully achieve the Focus 15 state during the course of the approximately 7 days of training. Nonetheless, Monroe Institute trainers affirm that with enough practice, eventually Focus 15 can be achieved. They also state that not only the individual's past history is available for examination by one who has achieved the Focus 15, but other aspects of the past with which the individual himself has had no connection may also be accessed.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. Focus 21, Section 8 is about the future. The last and most advanced of all the focus states associated with the Gateway Training Program involves movement outside of the boundaries of time-space, as in Focus 15, but with attention to discovering the future rather than the past. The individual who has achieved this state has reached a truly advanced level. Except in unusual circumstances, it is probably not attainable except by those who have conditioned themselves through long application of meditation, or by those who have practiced long and hard through use of the hemisync tapes for a period of months, if not years. Makes sense. I mean, that seems like an advanced thing to do.
Well, and part of me wonders also too is that maybe this is sort of like alluding to the fact that the future is not solidified, so therefore it would take a lot of I guess, brain power in order to even look at the future. And then even if you're looking at the future, you might just be looking at a possibility that's not set in stone.
Oh yeah, because some other person's over there manifesting a yacht, and you're like,
Right.
"Stop
Yeah.
doing it! I'm trying to get a hold of what's happening. And you're changing it."
Yeah. In my future, you don't have a yacht. Stop it.
Or even like a quantum event sort of thing, where the very fact of you looking to that future changes it.
Oh
Because
God,
now
that would suck.
Yeah, because now you've observed something, and if you express it to other people, then
It changes everything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So to get it now down to one might be an extremely difficult thing to do, let alone that future comes to fruition.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. I think many people have touched upon the concept of time travel and that sort of thing. I guess that looking into the past might be a bit more useful. I think looking into the future would just be maddening. And like I said, totally it would seem that you're not looking into a objective future. You're just looking into possibilities for the future.
Yeah, but it would be fun to do though, especially if you're bored. You got nothing else to do. Why not just look into
Maybe.
the future? But
Good point.
the past might be extremely helpful to put together a closer to objective past, right?
Definitely.
'Cause
Yeah.
they are also able to look into other things that has no connection to them. So like, I don't know how local or how far, like, widespread it is, right? Because wouldn't it be great to look into your past and like hear a conversation?
Yeah.
That was like a clandestine conversation in the corner somewhere, like, oh, I wonder what happened there. Like, you
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
it or you know it, and you just jump back to that point and then able to re-experience it, but able to listen to what was said.
Yeah, that would be pretty incredible.
Ooh.
I mean, and actually, I think that in a lot of respects, there's probably that type of thing that type of thing was probably happening within the military. At least they were trying to get people to do something like that, because I could see that as a highly valuable intelligence sort of instrument.
Oh yeah, I just wonder to what, like, how much confidence they would have in that sort of thing, right? Because if you're
Right.
dealing, like, maybe the past, if it's no connection to yourself, those past might also be in a quantum flux where you reach into like a close parallel past instead of your timeline's past.
Right. Yeah. So perhaps you would have to have been in that physical space, at that point of time, so that you could go revisit yourself, your physical body, and then astral project from that physical space out into the surrounding areas.
Exactly. Ideally, overhearing it, just little fragments of conversation, right? And you could able to fill in the gaps from there.
That would be a great spy movie.
Yeah, it would.
It would be a really good spy movie.
Yeah.
I don't know why they haven't done an astral projection spy movie yet.
I think it's just hard to visualize, right?
Yeah, that's probably true.
Doctor Strange, she just used that kind of like
That kind of money.
Yeah, that kind of money.
Well, but I mean, exactly.
Ain't nobody giving a astral projection spy movie a Doctor Strange budget.
No, definitely not. I could see it as an indie thing though. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be good. It's just, I think the visual effect of astral projecting might have to be a little, because it can come off really cheap. Right?
Yes, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
done wrong. So that's the hard part, I think.
For sure. Yeah, well, you guys, let's see. I don't think I have the end of this paragraph, so we'll continue this conversation on Monday if that's cool with you guys.
Yeah, I think that's good. That was a long section.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my brain's a little bit tired just kind of
Right.
thinking about all this stuff.
Yeah.
But
And that's kind of why oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, well, I was going to say what was kind of cool was that so much of this is touching on a lot of the episodes that we covered in the past year. And I think just, reflecting on the past year of doing this ExoFathom podcast, I think it's just really cool to poke holes into the things that we thought we had a handle on, so as to spark the imagination for what's possible.
Yeah.
So I think I've really...
It's
Yeah,
almost
just
like
really
summer.
enjoyed these talks. Mike, you're
Just stepping all over you.
Stepping all over the words. No, it's
Oh, my
fine though.
bad.
It
I'm
means
so
it was
sorry.
something was resonating, so it's good.
Well, you tend to
Yeah.
do false pauses too. So
I do. Well, I'm trying
sometimes.
to have like a reflection. Like, you know how artists talk when
Yeah.
they're getting interviewed? I'm trying to put pauses so because I talk really fast usually. So sorry.
So, anyways, I just started blasting.
Right. Yeah.
um, it's almost like someone in the past prepped us for the future of this episode.
Oh, right.
Aw.
Yeah, it's almost like we had to build out all those other holograms in order to fully appreciate what we were talking about here.
It's very true.
But
Very
yeah,
true.
no, I definitely get it. Like this stuff is really dense, and so yeah, it's going to take us a little bit of probably a few more episodes to finish this completely. I would ultimately love it to be done in 9 episodes, just to kind of have that meme. But you know, like I definitely think, yeah, we got to take this in small doses because it's just so conversationally dense. It's so imaginatively dense, and so yeah, it's a lot to digest.
It
But
is. Mm.
yeah.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say I had this fascinating chat with my mom earlier today. Because I was trying to explain to her the fifth dimension, and at first she didn't want to hear it because English isn't her first language, and she always feels like giving up because she just feels like she just can't get there. And I was like, you know what though, Mom? Like these concepts are being rewritten all the time. And I was like, you know, we have words like green and blue and box and shoe, but like, then those aren't going to really change. But a term like fifth dimension, I was trying to like break it down for her. I was like, it took me a lot of passes, a lot of lectures, a lot of books, and I still don't really get it. So, you know, I mean, I kind of get it, like I can talk about it, but it's still such a weird concept. And I don't know, I think I just bring that up because I think that so many people like to wax on like they know what they're talking about. And I think what I like about this show is we've been pretty honest in saying like we know how much we don't know. But you know, this particular released document has been such a great backbone to start the show and to now just kind of reflect on it and just think about like all the crazy stuff that's going on out there and like all the new information we're constantly getting. And it can be really like despairing, I think sometimes, but it's also like really ripe with amazing information that you can just start to reflect on and be like, you know. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if you guys are interested in this sort of material, I highly recommend Itzhak Bentov's book. It's called Chasing the Wild Pendulum. It's one I'm currently reading right now. And basically, most of this report and most of the things that are talked about in this report are straight from Itzhak Bentov. And his book, it's called Stalking the Wild Pendulum. It really goes into detail a little bit further than just this report about the nature of the holographic universe, the way we can interact with it, and all that stuff. So if you're interested in this type of topic, I highly recommend that book. But yeah, thanks for everybody for listening. We hope that you enjoyed this special anniversary episode, our 1-year anniversary for Exofathom. We very much appreciate your support over the last year. We've had a lot of fun having engaging conversations, suspending our disbelief, and playing within our imaginations. And we hope that you enjoyed the journey with us. Please stay tuned for Monday. We're going to be finishing. We're not finishing. We're going to be continuing this conversation about the Gateway experience. And then hopefully by next Friday, we'll have everything wrapped up in a nice bow that we can, put our name on and be happy about. But thank you to Ayla for reading. It's not easy getting through all that material, and I appreciate the narration. Thank you very much. And thanks, Mike, as always. It's a great time to talk with you. And thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you. Please consider giving us comments. Please consider following us on Facebook and YouTube. Everything is at Exofathom. We would very much appreciate a subscription if you feel so inclined. But if not, we just appreciate you listening this evening. And until next time, Cognonauts, you stay out there, and we'll catch you on the next Exofathom. Good night.
Peace.
Later.